You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact that you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. They make it super simple. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with coverage options tailored to your choices. Plus, you'll see which discounts you may qualify for, like the online quote discount or savings for paying in full. In fact, 99% of Progressive Auto customers earn at least one discount. See if you could save when you switch to Progressive. You'll feel good about making a savvy choice. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little extra cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Howard, I'm so glad I saved your number. My husband fell at a construction site and is in critical condition. I knew it wasn't safe.
I'm very sorry to hear that. I just want to let you know I'm here to help. Yeah, tell me more about it. Work injuries not only affect the victim, but also everyone around them. Inc. Law is Chicago-based and here to advocate on your behalf. With over 100 attorneys and staff, if you or someone you know has questions about a work injury, call 312-6-million. Injury law made personal. That's Inc. Law.
From your favorite source for Chicago White Sox talk, delivering news, interviews, analysis, and more. This is the Sox Machine Podcast with your hosts, Jim Margulis, James Fegan, and Josh Nelson.
Thanks, Rob, and welcome to a new episode of the Sox Machine Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Nelson, and it's Thursday night, May 28th, 2026, as we record this show. If you listen to our previous podcast episode with our good friend Mike Farron reviewing this week's college baseball postseason, I wished Frank Thomas a happy birthday, as the Big Hurt's birthday is on May 27th. Well, happy birthday to our own James Fegan. Even White Sox manager Will Venable gave James a happy birthday shout out before the post-game presser, so happy birthday, James. The White Sox continue to give fans reasons to celebrate, as the last two nights they won against the Minnesota Twins, a big Wednesday night smackdown 15-2 victory, and then winning 6-2 on Thursday. So the White Sox won 3 out of 4 against the Twins. It was very close to being a mop for the White Sox. So what does that mean? The White Sox are back to being 2 games above 500 with a record of 29-27. But now their run differential for the season is 0. Huzzah! We'll recap that series as Davis Martin continues to roll. David Sandlin was impressive in his MLB debut. Munetaka Murakami joins a rare club. Colson Montgomery is starting to heat up, and a pleasant surprise offensively coming from the White Sox bench. Also, we'll preview the upcoming White Sox vs. Tigers series, as Detroit, boy, they are not in hot water. That water is boiling, as they are 7.5 games back of the White Sox. And the Major League Baseball Commissioner's Office, representing the owners, and the Major League Baseball Players Association have started negotiations on a new CBA, and both presented what their version of a salary floor could be. So let's get started. Joining me as Sox Machine's managing editor, it's Jim Margulis. And hello, Jim. As I mentioned in the intro, the White Sox continue to find ways for fans to celebrate, continue to find ways for you and I to talk positively about this team, winning 3 out of 4 against the Twins, and oh, so close to mopping the Twins. Tough loss on Tuesday, going to extra innings. What are your initial reactions to the White Sox winning this series?
Good. Man, that's really 3 out of 4. Like, you never complain about that unless it's like the final week of the season. You need to make up 3 games instead of 2.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you said, close to a sweep. And that would have been a killer game if they stole that one with Murakami hitting the homer off Joe Ryan when, like, Ryan could have been pulled, but the Twins bullpen has been so shaky that, like, you understand why they trust Ryan. Just, you like when you see the other team struggling with the damned if you do, damned if you don't choice that the White Sox have been so often confronted with when they don't have a closer or their bullpen is in shambles or the only guy you trust is not, he needs a day off because it's been used 2 days in a row. So yeah, the White Sox look like the better team. They look like the deeper team, the team with the better starting rotation, as we saw in the finale, just of how they had to scramble. So they took care of business, and the Twins are kind of in this, somehow they're in the middle of the AL Central just because the Tigers, like you said, have been a disaster with injuries, and the Royals have just been disappointing. So it looks like for the time being that the Twins are the team the White Sox have to stiff arm from below to make sure that they don't mess up their pursuit against the Guardians, and they took care of business.
To bounce back from that extra innings loss, I was a little bit worried because that was such a tough loss, Jim, and they really had a great opportunity to win that game in the 10th inning, but a weird double play as Murakami hit a hard grounder to Josh Bell. Fantastic defensive play by Josh Bell. Sam Antonacci was screwed. If you think he caught it, you have to go back to first. And if he didn't catch it and you're standing on first, now you got to run all the way 90 feet to second base. It was a terrible spot to be in. And that was just a cap tip to Josh Bell and making a great defensive play. And the Twins ended up winning that game in the 11th inning. And oftentimes when we watch those tough losses, Jim, they kind of roll over to the next day for the White Sox. But that wasn't the case the next 2 days. I mean, they crushed the Minnesota Twins. I mean, it's 21-4 in the next 2 games for the White Sox. And now they're back at a 0-run differential. That's just how far they've really come, Jim. I know with run differential, that doesn't mean a whole lot to baseball fans. But when this White Sox team started 1-5 and they allowed 52 runs while only scoring 21, and now here we are after Memorial Day weekend, inching closer to June 1st, which is kind of a milestone of the calendar for baseball executives, kind of start thinking about, are we for real or not? The White Sox are 2 games above 500, and their run differential is 0. So no matter how you calculate it, the White Sox are in a really good spot right now. And it is going to force Chris Getz into having conversations, Jim, that I don't know if he was planned for. Shoot, Jim, we weren't planning to have these types of conversations, but that's what continues making this season a pleasant surprise and a lot of fun for everyone involved.
Yeah, run differential is not, I guess, a go-to stat just because it can be misleading, and it often comes as solace when team is disappointing. You say, yeah, but the run differential, or if a team is trailing another team that's in the red and run differential, and you say they're going to come crashing back to earth, and they don't, and then it's just kind of why were you paying attention to that at all? And I think probably the simplest reason I can say to pay attention to run differential is if you don't have a legendary lights out bullpen, and the White Sox don't, the White Sox think have an okay bullpen, but they have some weak spots. They have some changes to either make or just kind of some revolving doors that are always going to be there. If they just have an ordinary bullpen, then you want a positive run differential just to allow yourself some margin for error for when the bullpen doesn't show up in a given day. If you are running thin margins to where you have to make the most of 1-run games, or every game comes down to a save situation, then you kind of need what the Royals had with the Wade Davis, Kelvin Herrera, Greg Holland trio, or the Orioles under Buck Showalter with Zach Britton and the setup guys they had, just to make the most out of every single lead. Whereas if you have a positive run differential and comfortably in the black, then you can get away with some games where you don't have your high leverage guys or one of them craps the bed, and there are just ways to get back with a couple wins in a row, like we just saw, where they kind of run up the score because they just have the firepower, and you don't need your high leverage levers every single game to convert a win. So that's, I think, the simplest reason for paying attention to it, even if they still are, 3 games behind Cleveland now. Cleveland's got a positive run differential. I think they were running a negative number for a while in that regard. And they're one of those teams that maximizes the run prevention opportunities all the time and can get by with those margins until the White Sox have a better defense and better bullpen. You want to see that number plus and with some room to spare.
Well, a big reason why the White Sox continue to be above 500 and continue to surprise, and maybe one of the biggest surprises in all of Major League Baseball this season, Davis Martin, the Dart, earned his 8th win of the season. Jim, it is May 28th. That sets a new career high for most wins in a season for Davis Martin. So Davis, congratulations. In Thursday's start against the Twins, he went 6 innings, allowed just 2 hits, 1 earned run. He walked 2 and struck out 5. I mean, four base runners in 6 innings. It's just dominating. For the season now, Davis is 8-1. His earned run average is an even 2 in 11 games started, 67 2/3 innings. So he's averaging more than 6 innings per start. He's got 71 strikeouts to 14 walks. We continue to say it on this show. Davis Martin is an all-star. But here's the number that surprised me even further, Jim. The White Sox are 10-1 when Davis Martin has started a game this season. And I know we walked into this season expecting that Shane Smith was going to be the staff ace for the White Sox, and we were hopeful that Shane Smith could take a step forward or at least continue the progress that he made at the end of last season. Unfortunately, that hasn't come to fruition in 2026, but this is Davis Martin's role, right? He is now the ace for the White Sox staff.
Until he shows otherwise, yeah. You know how he talked about coming into the season, strikeout to walk rates. You know,
yes.
The divide, K minus BB rates, whatever you want to call it. Look at the top 10. You have number 1, Jacob Mizorowski, good pitcher.
Not a surprise.
Number 2, Dylan Cease, good
Pretty
pitcher.
Good. Yeah.
Number 3, Cam Schlittler, good pitcher.
Good.
Number 4, Christopher Sanchez, good pitcher. Number 5, Jacob deGrom, good pitcher. Number 6, Paul Skeens, good pitcher. Number 7, Chris Sale, good pitcher. Yeah. Number 8, Davis Martin.
Davis Martin's in the top 10?
Yes.
Hot damn.
Nolan McLean and Joe
Wow.
Ryan rounding out the top 10.
Wow. You know, I wonder if Eno Saris over at The Athletic and Rates and Barrels, if they've updated their stuff rankings and just how much has Davis Martin leaped this year? Because those are big names. Didn't Christopher Sanchez just set a new scoreless inning streak for the Philadelphia Phillies?
Yeah, like usurping Grover Cleveland Alexander, which
yes,
when you start getting into the dead ball era names, you know you've done something.
Yeah, those are just big names, big performances, and Davis Martin belongs there, and that's why it's a little bit disheartening lately when MLB, and it's just probably like the whole content creation game to try to stir up engagement, but when they're putting out their lists of like who their all MLB teams are or their top 10s by position, it's a bit disheartening when the league itself is not paying attention to what Davis Martin is doing. And when you look at these metrics, I think when Baseball Reference updates tomorrow, Jim, Davis Martin might be over 3 WAR already for the season.
Yeah, it should be.
It's just crazy good. Just an amazing start to this season by Davis Martin. I continue to run out of things to say about just how he has looked, but man, ever since we have podcasted, what would be the other seasons we can compare this leap forward from a pitching perspective? I guess Dylan Cease when he was in the running for Cy Young.
Yeah, Carlos Rodon his last year.
Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah, Rodon.
But they had name brand value, like real prospect stock, real draft capital invested in them in terms like off the radar types. Like you have to go back to like Jose Quintana probably.
Oh, yeah. Another good call. Yeah, just hopefully that's just my wish, podcast listeners, that the rest of the league catches up to what we are seeing And slowly but surely, I think it will happen. But that number, the K minus BB rate, strikeout minus walk rate, to be in the top 10 right there, like right behind Chris Sale, Hall of Famer. I think Chris Sale's a Hall of Famer, but you're just a couple ticks below Paul Skeens. Like, come on. That's very unexpected, but fantastic work by Davis Martin.
Big thanks to our sponsor, BetterHelp, for partnering with us for this important conversation about mental health.
This is Steve Smith here, former NFL wide receiver and host of the 89 show on YouTube. So having a counselor and working with BetterHelp, that gives you an opportunity to really start to unpack, but people don't understand when you unpack things, you also open up a box that you're not always sure what's inside. So I think that's why seeing a professional is extremely important. If you need someone to open up to, visit BetterHelp. That's betterhelp.com/89 to get started.
We've all been there. You're away for the weekend, the big game is on, and you realize you're restricted from watching. Or maybe you're trying to check the latest lines on your betting app, but your local network is blocking the site. These are the ultimate unforced errors. You can prevent this from happening to you with IPVanish. IPVanish is the powerhouse VPN designed to keep you in the game no matter where you are. IPVanish helps you stay connected to your favorite team and streaming services while you travel. But it's not just about watching the game. For the bettors out there, IPVanish provides an extra layer of security and privacy that helps you access your account safely on public Wi-Fi. Plus, IPVanish is lightning fast, so you won't have to worry about lag during those crucial live betting moments. Right now, get a massive discount at IPVanish.com. That's IPVANISH.com to get started today. Secure your play and go to IPVanish.com.
The other pitcher in this series, that was a big surprise. We weren't expecting David Sandlin to be joining the White Sox because he was still continuing to ramp up down at AAA. If you didn't get a chance to read that feature from James Vegan, I highly recommend it. Go to SoxMachine.com. It really provided a ton of insight in just David's progression since he was traded to the Chicago White Sox and where his mindset was in trying to get ready to help with the major league team. Well, lo and behold, he's needed because Noah Schultz is going on the IL because of his knee again, and we'll see Noah Schultz in a couple of weeks as that discomfort was impacting the way that he was throwing. But here comes David Sandlin, Jim. Only on 61 pitches, gives up a leadoff home run to Byron Buxton, and that's it. No other hits, no other walks, 4 strikeouts. He goes 6 innings. There's a lot to like about David Sandlin's MLB debut. What did you like the most from what you saw?
It was funny in James's conversation with Sandlin. He talked about how he needed to improve from the stretch, that he'd kind of figured out his windup mechanics, but he got into some long innings that sopped up his pitch count because of just inconsistency from the stretch. And so his solution in his debut was to never throw a pitch from the stretch, which he didn't have to because Buxton ran his circle around the bases and he was in the windup for the entire time. But I think probably the most impressive part was the strikes, forcing the Twins to make them get in trouble, and they couldn't. Like a lot of rookie pitchers, you'll see that they just nibble, that they're going for the strikeout. They don't want to get beat with 2 strikes. They fall behind in counts, and then they have to come back on the fastball, and then just problems kind of snowball. And it's just unsatisfying all around. Think like Noah Schultz in his debut. And we'll see how much of that was due to the knee issue. Yeah, last year he admitted it long after it seemed to take effect. So if strike throwing if his strike throwing problems are always correlated with knee problems, you never quite know. But he clearly was overthrowing as well. Sandlin didn't appear to be overthrowing, or if he happened to be overthrowing, his misses went in the strike zone. Gave up some loud contact, not a ton. The wind kind of blew some balls around and made him more threatening. Randal Grichuk made a nice play to help save extra bases, but he made the Twins get him in trouble and they couldn't quite do it. And that's a testament to him. I think, probably his next start, probably going to want to see better fastball location because he was kind of low in the zone with his fastball and they were putting the bat on him. And I think that's one of the questions about his prospect profile was, is his fastball too vulnerable, even if he throws it really hard? And can he go to secondaries enough? We saw that a little bit in his debut, but right now, I would just go with that same game plan of throw strikes, see what happens. And if you have to go in the stretch and it gets a little hairy, then so be it. But he kind of bought himself some extra time, some house money with the second start because of how good the first one went.
And the thing that I liked when you look at Baseball Savant, as far as his pitch mix, Jim, Sandlin kind of falls in line with what we are seeing across Major League Baseball, that it's just not one kind of fastball. So even though that he is mostly dependent on his fastball, and I think he was most dependent on his fastball and curveball combination against the Twins, he does have a two-seamer and he has a cutter in his back pocket. So that gives, as far as Zach Bove, the pitching coach for the White Sox, and of course Brian Bannister, the director of pitching for the team, some attributes to work with. It's a big fastball though, Jim. If he can get more comfortable throwing that up in the zone with his curveball, I mean, to change the eye level of having to prepare yourself for 98 up in the zone, and if he snaps that curveball, especially with ABS now in Major League Baseball, as a good off-speed delivery from Sandlin as far as the difference between that fastball velocity, I still think that can make him pretty effective. This will be a tough test in his next start, though, because he's facing the same team in the Twins in Minneapolis when he makes his second start. So I am curious to see how even Minnesota adjusts to him.
Yeah, the changeup looked pretty good, too, for a guy who had some issues with lefties, wondering how he's going to handle them. Threw a couple of really good ones, but even the misses, even the ones that kind of sailed on him, were out of the zone. So he probably didn't throw as many good ones as he would like to, but the bad ones were harmless.
And speaking of that series next week, we are sending James up to Minneapolis to cover that series for us, and large thanks to our Sox Machine subscribers. So as always, thank you guys for continuing to support us. The White Sox are now 2 games above 500, Jim. So are we still running that promotion of them being above 500?
Absolutely. And I want to check their winning percentage. And yep, it's now 52 cents for the first month.
There you go. Get on it.
So, yep, the more they win, the more that price goes up. Might be 53 cents.
Wouldn't that be inflation? A great thing? So take advantage of that offer. Go to soxmachine.com/products to sign up. The more of you sign up, the more that we can send James out on the road. You were also on the road too, Jim. You were just in Birmingham. How was the Rickwood Classic?
Score-wise, not great. The Barons lost 23-4. Gave up 7 homers. Strange game in the sense that, like, the Barons, the starter they faced for Pensacola, Marlins affiliate, didn't record a strikeout in 6 innings. So it looked like a line out of the 1930s to 1950s of like 6 innings, 7 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, 0 strikeouts. Like it was turned back the clock in that regard too. But yeah, I mean they did win the opener. Colby Shelton hit a grand slam. He got off to a nice little start for Birmingham and Double-A after getting promoted from High A, and then went cold for like a week or so. But then last couple of days hitting the ball really hard. Thanks to Jeff Allison at the Birmingham, their PR guy. I forget, after going to Nashville, watching the Knights there and then watching the Dash and Bowling Green, like how much more efficient it is to go to a home park and I'll get this guy for you. I'll go in the locker room and grab this guy, or I'll line them all up for you so you can talk to everybody you want to talk to. So basically got like 7 interviews, got a lot of background information on some players and some stories and notebooks I'll be running in the next few days. But yeah, it was a good trip, worthwhile. I'll actually be seeing Birmingham again next week in Knoxville. Check out that park, which is, I think, I missed it last year, so it'll be second year. But brand new park. Chattanooga's got a brand new park, so basically every park in the Southern League now is pretty nice. Wow,
nice. I can't wait to read that report. And James just recently did a feature on Gabe Davis, and thinking about it, Gabe Davis and Colby Shelton, to kind of tie in again with the NCAA going to the postseason. So many of these college juniors, when you are watching these playoff games, make note of them, because Colby Shelton obviously wasn't a first rounder. He was a mid-round pick by the White Sox. So was Gabe Davis. some of these college juniors and even seniors that are going to be playing in the postseason could be the next guys that we're talking about, part of the White Sox minor league system. So you mentioned Kobe Sheldon, big moments with the University of Florida. James just wrote about Gabe Davis, who just got promoted to Birmingham. I wrote a draft report about Gabe Davis the year that he played at his junior year at Oklahoma State. So always fun to follow these stories as they continue to go up through the White Sox system.
And if the schedule holds, Davis is making his Birmingham debut on Saturday, which means he'd be pitching on Friday when I'll be in Knoxville. So hopefully no rainouts. Been a lot of rain in this area, but if the schedule holds, yeah, it'll be nice to see him in person.
Very tall.
Yeah.
Very tall.
I've seen him in person, like in terms of walking by, trying to figure out who's who, and he's very easy to spot.
Yes.
Same thing like George Wolkow, very easy to tell him from the rest of the Dash lineup. Very easy to tell Gabe Davis. Maybe like if Carson Jacobs were there, like he was supposed to be there, but he was injured. Having 2 6'9" guys, you might have to look at a number or wait to turn around to see, just facial characteristics. When he's standing alone, there aren't many guys like him.
Well, back to the White Sox. Munetaka Murakami in this series against the Twins had some big home runs. He now has 20 home runs on the season. And that is a historical feat within Chicago White Sox history, as only 2 other hitters in franchise history have reached 20 home runs before June 1st. Jim, I'll give you a chance here. Do you know the other 2 hitters?
One of them is definitely Frank Thomas.
Yes.
Basically every story about greatest power seasons, Frank Thomas 1994 is there, unless you're talking about like counting stats because the limited to 113 games. I don't think Abreu slowed down before 20.
Yes.
So that leaves basically either, and Albert Bell, his big year was off to a slow start. He didn't do any damage the second half. So that leaves Dyer, Tomey. I'm going to say Tomey.
Correct. Yes. Jim Tomey in 2006. So yeah, Frank Thomas, 1994, Jim Tomey in 2006, and now Munetaka Murakami in 2026 are the only 3 White Sox hitters to reach 20 homers before June 1st. But the other number that's catching my eye, Jim, because right now Murakami is on pace to hit 59 homers. You don't even have to ask podcast listeners. You know, I know that would set a franchise record, as nobody's ever hit 50 home runs in a White Sox uniform. But Peter Alonso has the rookie record with 53 in 2019. Aaron Judge had that record in 2017 with 52, and Mark McGwire held it for a long time with his 49 home run season in 1987. Those are the only 3 rookies in Major League Baseball history that have hit 40 or more home runs in their rookie season. Jim, do you think Murakami at the very least joins Alonso, Judge, and McGwire in hitting more than 40?
Let's say yes. Because what was his over-under before the season? I know we both picked over. Was it 30?
31 and a half.
Yeah. And I think we both, so given that he's well ahead of the pace, sure, let's push that number upwards and say he can get to 40. I'm surprised that there isn't like a rookie who hit like 42. I'm surprised that the guys who cleared it by, with plenty of room to spare.
Yeah, 4th is Cody Bellinger with 39.
Okay.
So Cody was pretty close. But the fact that we can seriously have this conversation, Alonso, Judge, and McGwire, Murakami can join them. 53 is a tall order. But even when he does go quiet, Jim, these home runs are starting to come in bunches, in the sense that it's like back-to-back games. And now he's hitting home runs off of left-handed pitchers. And I don't think it's out of the realm to see Murakami break the franchise record. I don't know. I'm not a mathematician. I do not know what the percentage of his odds would be in breaking Albert Bell's franchise record of 49 home runs. But I think that is in play for Murakami this season.
Yeah, I mean, the pace is there. So like he's, technically on the pace to do it. And then you're seeing like the way that his batted balls are rewarded in Chicago, at right field. His ability to like hit 37, 41 degree fly balls in right field and just kind of carry over into the craft cave or into the first few rows of the Miller Lite landing. And then you saw the opposite field homer to where he can just flick it out that way too. So between his raw power and his batting eye, I think, which even though he has some ugly games or the strikeout rate still isn't what you want typically, he does make pitchers come in the zone enough to where there will invariably be a mistake that he drives out. And it just all adds up into a power profile that seems like it should be able to keep going. You know, maybe not at this exact pace, but 40, yeah, 40 seems well within reach. I think like if he doesn't get to 40, it would probably take an injury, whether one that puts him on the shelf or one that he just plays through for a while, whether he admits it or not, that just, you know, you get to the point of like, what's the deal with him? And then finally comes out that he's been trying to play through something, and that's what saps it. But when he's at 100% with the game that he's showing, it seems like it's hard to know what would stop the homers from coming. Like I could see like him hitting homers and doing little else or getting into that like Mark Reynolds profile of all or nothing. But I think the all should still be in pretty frequent supply.
With each passing week, I find myself more in agreement with other White Sox fans and media members, Jim, of the team should start having serious conversations with Murakami's agent. Does he like Chicago? Are you enjoying your time here? Do you like your teammates? Would you like to be here beyond 2027?
Yeah, I mean, I can see
his point of view being like, I'm going to wait. But from a White Sox point of view, start, making those conversations.
I think this is where you get into the kind of territory of when does Justin Ishbia have some say, and when will his like capital infusions, like is this something where, I know right now he's paying down debt and doing boring stuff, where that's the plan. But if it's his investment, does he get some say in terms of which signature players will be involved by the time he's allowed to take over? One way or another. I think the one thing that's besides the whole, Murakami wants to test free agency, probably given they signed a 2-year deal, is that the profile, being first base only, being lots of strikeouts. Yeah, we just saw Kyle Schwarber not get paid a ton relative to what he's producing this year, just because of just age concerns, everything like that. So that's why I'm curious about the Justin Ishbia part of this, because like if he's somebody who will pay $100 million without thinking about it for a player he likes or a player who's proven valuable to the White Sox, then he might be better off waiting, 2 full years, see what he does, around 2 trips in the league, see how he's aging, and then just be happy to outbid when it comes time to pay. Because if it's like Schwarber's markets, it's not going to cost that much money relative to trying to pay, the Soto Ohtani contracts. 400, 600, 700, like this will be probably under 2. And then it's a matter of like how many years more than the annual rate. So that's why I can see both sides waiting. It just depends on whether it's, at some point, even if he's not the controlling partner, can he say, hey, I want this guy for 2029 or whenever they do decide to make the sale?
Yeah, I would not blink. Like, I don't think I would hesitate if I was in Ishbia's shoes and I did have that type of control of like starting at 5 years, $125 million to add on to what he already has and keep him through the 2032 season. Like I would not hesitate, because I think Schwarber signed for 5 years, $125 with the Phillies, and I think $150 he signed.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I think that would make Murakami one of the highest paid first basemen, right up there with Freddie Freeman and Matt Olson. I know it's a short time. Again, maybe I'm a little bit crazy, listeners, but with each passing week, I'm getting a little bit more crazier on and joining the masses and signing Murakami to a contract extension, or at least having those conversations. He has been a great addition and a great signing by the White Sox. Some other offensive surprises here before we start previewing the Tigers series. Jim, Colson Montgomery was on a cold streak, and when you have, by the way, Miguel Vargas is continuing to be very productive for the White Sox, and of course Murakami, and Tristan Peters has been helpful in the bottom of the lineup. Sam Antonacci has a high batting average getting on base. Chase Mydroth has been having good games as well. But in the last 3 games, Colson Montgomery has had 2 hits, and I feel like he's having a lot better swings in these last 3 games, and he's starting to heat up. And this has me really excited because if you can have Vargas continuing to be consistent like this and Murakami starting to hit home runs, this offense really gets special, as we saw earlier this season when Colson is also hot. And I feel like he's going to have a big weekend against Detroit.
Yeah, I think he's somebody who's going to oscillate between hot and cold just because of the size of his strike zone, the amount of swing and miss, the amount of zone hunting he's doing and trying to bring pitchers into the areas that he can do damage, and sometimes that doesn't work out. So I could see weeks where it clicks and he's feeling good, he's on time, and pitchers are doing what he's trying to make them do. And then there are some other weeks that kind of get away from him. That just might be his profile where he has these swings, but that's why it's so valuable that he's playing a good shortstop, because he's always contributing one level or another just by holding down that position, even if he does bounce to third once in a while. And when he's on, then yeah, it's basically, right now I'm looking at he's on about a 4-win pace roughly, with these ups and downs. So for that to be kind of the territory that he's gravitating around, hot and cold, kind of going above and below, but kind of the equilibrium has around 4 wins. Like, that's pretty awesome for what the White Sox are trying to do. And it definitely helps like that Miguel Vargas is hitting next to him lineup, because Vargas is definitely providing the steadier production, the walks, limiting the strikeouts, getting the singles when the contact isn't pure. So between Murakami and Montgomery having these more boom and bust profiles, having Vargas in the middle really is a balance that's helping them.
And then a pleasant offensive surprise coming off the bench for the White Sox. Randal Grichuk had a bases clearing double against the Twins on Thursday that really broke the game open. And I know he was not good with the Yankees, Jim. His OPS earlier this season with New York was below 600. But in 18 games with the White Sox, he has 4 home runs, 13 RBIs. He's batting .333. He's slugging .694. And is this just something we have to give a cap tip to Will Venable and Walker McKinven as far as their pregame planning? Because it just seems like they're picking the right spots for Grichuk to excel for the White Sox.
He's coming from the Yankees, and they're pretty good at the planning thing too, and developing hitters. So I'm not sure if like the White Sox have a leg up there, but definitely the right spots. Definitely a lineup to where, especially in the first week of the season, it's like, who's this off the bench with the weird stance? Like, oh yeah, it took me a while to get used to Grichuk being in the roster, which is good in a way, just because that means he's not being thrown in the lineup every single day, because he's a veteran who's produced in the past, and that makes him more valuable by default than like a Derek Hill or a Tristan Peters, depending on the matchups. So like they did ease him in, and yeah, it was kind of the case last year. We had a good first half, got traded to the Royals and did nothing. So he might be another profile that runs hot and cold. But the way he's hitting right now, it does make me wonder, like, isn't this what Austin Hayes was supposed to be doing? And if he comes off the injured list and like somebody has to go, I guess Luis Angel Acuna is there to eat a DFA if he needs to, just to get off the roster and make room. But in terms of like the same profile of right-handed corner outfielder, you want hitting lefties, has been around the block, can teach some players a thing or two about being a player, kind of fill the same role. And if Hayes is getting hurt and he's had 2 leg injuries, if it does come down to one or the other, like I know the cost is so Hayes is making $6 million, Grichuk's making 1.25. So yeah, you're talking about 5 times the cost. But like if you just lump it in as far as like, we signed a right fielder for $7.25 million. Like that just might be how you have to do the math, just to trick yourself into making the right decision if it comes down to which guy's more productive and which guy's a better bet to stay healthy. If it comes down to it, right now the White Sox have had a hard time getting every single one of their outfielders healthy at the same time. But yeah, it's just something I'm keeping an eye on as watch these rehab stints start and stop, and seeing the just guys who are producing and the guys who are hanging on by a thread at the major league level.
Yeah, do we even get an update on Everson Pereira? Like, is Everson close to returning?
Not yet. Hayes was definitely closer, and then Hayes had a setback. So they're kind of tripping over each other right now.
Well, Grichuk, continue to do what you're doing. Tristan Peters has been hitting a lot better. I think he's been a lot more confident. And of course, Riku Nishida has been providing some moments, especially defensively for the White Sox. I've been getting to forget that Andrew Benintendi is still on the team, Jim.
And he's been okay.
He's been okay, yeah.
Like, not better as of late. He's kind of cooled off again, but like at least he had a little bit of an uptick in production to where, Acuna became the guy with the target on his back.
I have to give the White Sox outfielders credit. I really thought this was going to be the worst unit in franchise history, but they have been doing well as far as what their talent levels we thought they were coming into the season. In some areas, like even Tristan Peters excelling. So it's been a good sign that they've been able to do that. I still think in the future, the White Sox do need to address the position, but they are getting some good production, Jim.
Yeah, according to Fangraphs, they're 18th in wins above replacement, which is probably 10 to 12 spots higher than I thought they would be.
Exactly. Yes. So good job, White Sox outfielders.
Oddly enough, do you know who's at the bottom? Well,
you said oddly enough.
Well, I should say not at the very bottom, but like towards the bottom.
Angels.
No, actually, the Angels are 14th. Last is the Giants. Then 29th is the Brewers.
What? Wow.
Yeah, okay. Frelick is not having a good season.
Yeah, well, if he's not. And Christian Yelich doesn't play a lot of outfield these days.
Yeah, and he was hurt too for part of the year. So, but yeah, it's just it goes to show that you can work around it if your outfield isn't what you want, just either with real aggressive matchups, pinch hitting, opting for defense. Like Greg Jones is part of their mix. Has been. So like, yeah, they've been cycling through a lot of options right now. So yeah, the fact that the Brewers are 29th, but still being the Brewers, does lend some credence to the idea that you don't have to have a completely functioning outfield as long as it's doing something well. And as long as it's modular to where even if like the overall numbers are terrible on a given day against a righty or against a lefty, you stand a chance of doing something.
Well, the White Sox continue this homestand as the Detroit Tigers come into town. As we mentioned in the intro, the Tigers are in boiling water. They are very close to having very difficult conversations about what this 2026 season is going to be about for them. They are now 22-35. They are 13 games below 500. They're 10.5 games back of Cleveland. They're 7 games back of the White Sox. They have lost 8 of their last 10 games. They are not a good road team. The Tigers are 8-21 this year on the road. So this is one of the biggest surprises in Major League Baseball. Yes, they don't have Tarek Skubal, but Skubal only pitches every 5th day. That they would still have issues on the other 4 days. The pitching problems for this series, Friday night, it's going to be Troy Melton. This might be an opener situation for Detroit against Eric Fedde for the White Sox. Let's see if Eric Fedde can avoid giving up a home run. Saturday and Sunday, these are 1:10 p.m. Central Time starts. Framber Valdez will take the ball for the Tigers against Anthony Kay for the White Sox, who's been pitching really well in the month of May. His earned run average in 5 starts is below 2 this month. And then on Sunday, it's Keider Montero for the Tigers against Sean Burke. So we're hoping that Sean Burke and Eric Fedde bounce back. But Jim, from a Tigers point of view, If the White Sox win this series, whether they win 2 out of 3 or they sweep Detroit, are the Tigers done?
Even if the White Sox don't, it's hard to see a path for the Tigers. Just so many guys are hurt. That's, when you look at just the 40-man roster, like just all their plan A's or their, the rotation Mize, we'll see if he goes on the injured list, but he's hurt. Job's hurt. Skubal's been hurt. Verlander is out. Offensively, Torres is out. Carpenter's out, and Carpenter tends to mash against the White Sox, so they'll be happy to miss him. Normally you'd look at their lineup and say like Kevin McGonigal's been great. And if they got that kind of season they're getting from him, and Riley Green is getting like the best Riley Green outcome right now, that you'd have to feel pretty good about what they're doing. Dylan Dingler's been, I'm not sure if he's an all-star, but he's close. And he's, proven really valuable. And, you're looking at up the middle production, and typically that's where a team is the strongest, but just everything has kind of fallen by the wayside around them. And all the pitching injuries, especially if Mize is hurt, because Mize is having a nice year, that I just don't know. It's already been next man up for them, and that hasn't worked for him. Flaherty's been bad. So and that's been kind of surprising, just how little he's helped. That, where do they turn at this point based on all the guys they've lost? And if they have any kind of, issues returning or recurrence of injuries, then that just puts them even further behind the 8 ball. So, it's tough to rule out a team in the Central, especially one that does have some known components that should be able to produce if they get healthy. It's just a matter of just so many bodies lost, and so many games lost, so much value that beyond the point a team can actually bank on it. Like even the Dodgers, I think, would be struggling to compensate for how many games have been lost by players who are considered core players.
If the Tigers are still more than 10 games below 500 on July 1st, they have to seriously consider trading Skubal, Jim.
I mean, I'm thinking they were in a similar position a couple of years ago, right? Or
they were, but I still think they dreamt of the idea last year. We had Cody Stavenhagen, and when we did review last year, he mentioned that, the first half is critical for Detroit. If they don't do well, they would seriously could trade Skubal because of his value with an extra year, but the Tigers were good. Now here you are, and maybe it'd be worthwhile to shoot a text to Cody and bring him back on so he can talk a little bit more about what's going on in Detroit and what that whole situation is. But I wonder, come 4th of July, if the Tigers are still 10 games below 500, if that conversation gets very serious, and that's all we're going to be talking about when we inch closer to the trade deadline, is Tarek Skubal going to get dealt? Because that is a difference maker. If he is truly healthy and back to 100%, I believe Skubal is a big difference maker for a contending
team. It's kind of fun looking through their game logs or their schedules from the last 2 seasons. And 2024 is when they rallied, and looks like their low water mark was 9 games under 500 on June 29th. And then even kind of languish below 500 well into August, and then just turn it on with their September that they've closed with. But 2025, looking at that, I forgot how ordinary they were in the second half, or below average. They were 28-37 in the second half. And we heard the White Sox, coming into the season, making such a big deal about the way they played in the second half, and saying this is something that indicates we're on the right path, and we can build off this. And this is a lot closer to being what we thought. And they were 28-37 in the second half. So, obviously the Tigers added, I think, more in terms of name brand talent than the White Sox did. But the Tigers had negative run differential in the second half. Speaking of run differential, White Sox had a positive run differential last year in the second half. To where maybe they were closer, or maybe going in different directions. And it's funny to see how that plays out. One team that actually used that second half to as a stepping stone towards a productive first half, versus another team that just their 28-37 second half was a marker that they could be on the way down if and I think just nobody can anticipate the amount of injuries they've suffered, especially missing Skubal.
Right.
That's you can't just say like, oh, second half told the story, but it did point to like maybe a team that was just, not equipped to deal with losing a Skubal, much less, 3 other pitchers and, their outfield, or at least their original outfield configuration. Yeah. It's just been a mess all around.
Yeah. Hopefully the White Sox do win this series and continue to pad the distance between them and the Tigers. And then it'll be June. And the schedule gets a lot tougher for the White Sox, but we'll hold that conversation later. But hopefully the good vibes continue for the White Sox through this weekend against Detroit. And quickly, our final topic for this episode, you have probably read it on social media and the various national outlets. Major League Baseball's commissioner office and the negotiation team for the upcoming collective bargaining agreement have been meeting with the leaders of the Major League Baseball Players Association, and they have exchanged proposals as far as the starting points in conversations of the biggest topic that concerns this upcoming CBA, and that is the idea of implementing a salary floor and what MLB would propose as a salary cap. That the Players Association really hasn't changed its stance as far as leadership's point of view, that they do not want a salary cap. There's a bunch of other things that have been proposed, but Jim, I think I just want to quickly touch on this whole salary floor idea, because we heard from the Players Association first. They made their offer of a $150 million salary floor. So the minimum player payroll at $150 million, which would mean not only do the White Sox have to sign Murakami to a contract extension, but they're going to have to sign some more players or sign some more contract extensions to get themselves to $150 million. They would have work to do in order to meet that floor. Several teams in the league would have to do some work to hit that floor. And I thought there's no way the owners would accept that. That floor number is a lot higher than I was expecting. Well, I was wrong, because the owners offered a higher floor of $171 million, but with a salary cap at $245 million, which feels very NFL that all the teams are within this range of spending, and the way they would make it work is blah, 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 a lot of revenue sharing, but teams get to keep their local money. I don't know how those details work, but that's what the owners proposed. Are you surprised? I know it's just the first round of negotiations, but you have to start somewhere. Are you surprised that the salary floor from both parties is this high?
No, just because, one, the players want to get paid earlier. So the salary floor is not just players getting paid in free agency, but also I think they proposed a $1.5 million minimum salary. So it basically doubles the salary of every league minimum player. So that adds up. If you have like 15 league minimum guys, all of a sudden they're getting paid twice as much. And so that builds, onto payroll as well. So it makes sense that the players would ask for that much. And on the owner's side, yeah, if you have the salary cap that low, then there's a lot of money to spread around to where you can boost the bottom line, or like the bottom third of the MLB spenders to get up to the median, basically. I don't pay too much attention to first proposals because it almost feels like a mission statement or a MO, like, players want to get paid earlier. We want to get guys to the free agency earlier. MLB is, we want a salary cap, and we will do what we can to control costs, even if it is doubling or more than doubling some of the payrolls that are currently being run out, because that's how much money there is to go around if we can limit the spending at the top end to a number that starts with 2 versus what the Mets and Dodgers and other teams want to spend. So I don't put too much stock in first proposals. Also, I'm just curious to see what the appetite is for owners. Like, if they're saying that they can spend $150 million on a minimum payroll, and if the Padres are being sold for what's the value, $3 billion?
It's over $3 billion. Yeah.
Then I think the bottom line has to be healthier, in terms of, can they afford a lengthy work stoppage when they're trying to get a new TV deal, when valuations are going up and Padres are selling for a surprising amount of money. I know some markets haven't been able to find that price. I think the Twins, because of debt, the Angels are weird. But if the Padres can find that price for a fundamentally sound team, just in terms of stadium, everything is set up the way they want to. That does point to interest in these valuations going up. Just they want to match other leagues' valuations, and that's probably where you see the dollar signs in their eyes clouding judgments. But there's just so much to lose if they lose games this time around that I do wonder, as you get closer to December, and if it drags past December and that deadline, closer to pitchers and catchers reporting, it's hard to imagine that it seems like way more to lose than there is a gain at this particular juncture.
Yeah, I think for everyone involved, but you're right, most of all to the owners because of those TV deals. They would lose not only that sweet, sweet cash, but also confidence from streaming and television providers. As far as, we are worthwhile to charge a very high cost for our games while everyone is starving for NFL. Like, we're getting so many NFL games this year on so many random days. I think there's a week where we have a game on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in the NFL. I have to check. I think it's later in the schedule during the holiday season. Why? Because a streaming platform wanted NFL games and they were willing to pay for it. So there can be money out there for Major League Baseball. So I think you raise a good point, Jim. And I wonder on how that influences conversations. But I do think it's a good sign that they're talking now in late May. You need to start somewhere in negotiations. I differ. I'm a bit surprised that the floor is this high. I don't see it going down. I don't see it going below $150 million. So whatever they agree upon for us White Sox fans, for Pirates fans, for Marlins fans, for Rays fans that have been clamoring for their teams to spend more money, these fan bases are going to get their wish. They're going to have to spend more. I don't know what the Dodgers do. I don't know what the penalties are going to be. I don't know if they even care if there's just financial penalties for them to pay. But it'll be pretty interesting if they are able to implement a floor this high on what happens, especially to a team like the White Sox and having to meet that floor. And that will do it for this episode of the Sox Machine Podcast. Thank you guys so much for listening. We'll have another episode for you guys on Sunday. And again, with all the college baseball that is going on over the weekend, I'll be chatting with you guys because I'll be looking at that for an MLB draft perspective. But then we've got the White Sox and Tigers game, all the baseball this weekend. And the weather should be very nice in Chicago as well. So let's all have a great weekend. And if you just discovered the Sox Machine Podcast, you subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts, such as Spotify and Apple Music. We've been posting new videos on our YouTube channel, which you can check out at youtube.com/SoxMachine. If you do watch our videos, hit the subscribe button. It helps us greatly, and also notifies you when we have a new video for you to watch. So again, you can watch our videos on youtube.com/SoxMachine. Follow us on social media. We're on all the platforms at Sox Machine. James will be covering the games for us this weekend from the press box. You can follow him at JR Fegan. You can follow me at SoxMachine_Josh. We already hyped up as far as our subscription plan and our discounts right now. Again, a reminder, take advantage of that. Sign up to become a Sox Machine subscriber to get an ad-free version of both the podcast and website, unlock the comments section, and get all of our access regarding the Chicago White Sox, Major League Baseball, and the upcoming Major League Baseball draft. Sign up at SoxMachine.com/products. The Sox Machine Podcast is a production of SoxMachine.com. You're on for all things Chicago White Sox baseball and part of the Blue Wire Podcast Network. Alongside Jim Margulis, I'm Josh Nelson. Thanks for listening and watching.